So if you've been following my channel for a little bit, you'll know that I am a huge fan of Halo and all things Halo. And if you're familiar with the announcement trailer that released in 2006 for Halo 3, this shot will look very similar to that. Because my friend Matthias and I decided to recreate that trailer in Unreal and Cinema4D, and this is that process of how we made that video. So, strap yourselves in, grab a weapon, I guess, because that's what Master Chief says.
I need a weapon.
And let's talk about some Halo 3 things in Unreal. Alright, let's put this back and talk about some Halo things. First off, if you're a fan of the Halo series, you will know that the Studio Blur did a fantastic job with the Halo 2 Anniversary recreation. All of those cinematics look beautiful. Oh my god, they are jaw-dropping. But that was not the point of this project. The point of this Halo project was to express our appreciation for the series and also really learn about Unreal. When I was in high school, I really loved just having LAN parties with my friends and playing games and doing ridiculous teenage things in Halo and whatnot. And I wanted to showcase that appreciation in a more constructive manner. Now, if you're familiar with some of my work, you'll know that I do a lot of board game and tabletop stuff. A lot of the scenes for that are very, very small because it's a card or a board game piece or something, which are very tiny. So when you think about a big, massive environment that would live in a game like Halo, very, very foreign to me. And my friend Matthias, who helped me on this project, he's never used Unreal before more than a couple of days, so this was a very new experience for both of us. Now, this project is definitely not a two-man job. There are a lot of little parts to this that required some help, whether it be picking up assets online or getting people who specialize in specific fields like motion capture to help make things land the way they needed to. This trailer is so detailed and so iconic that trying to skimp out on little things because I just don't know how to do it would have been a disservice to it. So when it comes to things that I'm not necessarily the best at, modeling is one of them, and there were a lot of models that we needed for this project. Some of which included the wreckage and the giant alien portal, which we just couldn't find online. So Matthias is the one who tackled that part. All of the wreckage that you see in the scene, whether it be the rings, the brown metal things that Master Chief walks through, the giant rings in the background, and even the big portal that's in the ground, Matthias modeled that part because I definitely would not have been able to make that by myself. So thank you, Matthias, for tackling the modeling. There were so many little pieces that just didn't exist online that we needed to add to this trailer, and that's where Matthias came in on this. Matthias also really helped me with all the R&D that was part of this project. For example, the big sky vortex that's in the original trailer, we tried numerous things to try and make that look good. Our first thought was to use Trapcode Particular and comp it in, but we realized it would be so much easier to make everything happen in camera, and we can't really bring Trapcode Particular into Unreal because After Effects plugin, Unreal, different software. So we thought about using EmberGen, which is a real-time particle simulator. And because Unreal is real-time, we're like, oh, this would look great. However, we just couldn't figure out the best way to import all of that data and make it look good in the scene. For me, what I found is that the big sky vortex would just have a hard time with these really hard edges, and it didn't really blend in with the scene. So our final destination for creating that big hurricane thing was using Niagara, which is Unreal's built-in particle simulator.
You know, why don't you scale up the texture even more and just cut it to like 300?
Yeah.
Because that texture looks really detailed anyway.
Yeah, to like what? There we go.
So once we decided on using Niagara, we also ended up using a dust pack that I found on the Unreal Marketplace, and those in conjunction allowed us to create that big sky vortex effect. Without that, it would have just been way too crazy and hectic to try and comp something in, and we thought, hey, this already looks pretty cool, and a sky vortex in Niagara is actually really easy once you know what forces to use and what effects to plug in there to give it a little bit of dynamic movement. So the next part we need to talk about is mocap, and I do need to do a big shout out to my friend Gabby, also known as Feeding Wolves on Instagram. She is the wizard on the mocap and Unreal workflow, and she ended up doing the final Master Chief animation.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3.
Now, I should mention that we actually did try to do motion capture ourselves. Hello, Internet. We're here, and this is past Jags talking because we are doing the whole Rococo stuff with Matthias because the suit that we have, borrowing from a Mr. Jonathan Winbush, is very, very large, and I am not a very, very large human being. I am about 5'7", and Winbush is what, 6'3", 6'4", and you're 6'5"? So...
6'5".
Yeah.
He could be all of those. I think he's all of them.
Yeah. This is our attempt at Rococoing for the Halo 3 trailer recreation.
Test 1.
However, when we ended up doing motion capture, we realized that there were a lot of things that we just didn't know. Where
But this leg...
that looks like this in the software, and we have no idea what that means. When we were putting it on, we were having some issues trying to get it connected. When we got it connected, there was some knee popping, and we had to do a lot of cleanup. For those of you who don't know what cleanup is in motion capture, it basically means adding filters and adjusting the animation so that the knees don't pop out of their sockets or the hips don't go all over the place. And we just had a hard time making it work. So that's where Gabby came in. Gabby is the master Jedi when it comes to doing motion capture. She uses an Xsense motion capture system, and she went above and beyond and actually recorded the scene for us and gave us a tutorial on what we needed to do in Unreal to make it work. And once she gave us what we needed, we were 95% of the way there with the animation. So with that in mind, please, someone give an Oscar to Feeding Wolves on Instagram for the Master Chief performance because it looked so good. And all I had to do was move some joints around to give it that final polish that it needs.
I know you. Your past. Your future.
Now, I will say one thing when it comes to the motion capture we have. If you say anything about the hands, Chris, in those comments, I'm going to cry. The next thing we need to talk about is Cortana, my favorite blue woman. Jokes aside, when it came to animating Cortana, I could not find a good model online that would give us the facial motion capture we needed. So, a huge shout out goes to Amanda Barker for stepping up to the plate to play as Cortana. Past Jags here, and we're talking about the stuff that we're doing for the Cortana bit played by my beautiful girlfriend Amanda Barker. So what we have set up is my Aperture 120D inside my bedroom, along with my falconized light. Links in the description for all of the gear, and I just have a Rode mic boomed up right up here so then she can do the performance, which looks like this. And because it was live action, I think it gave it a very interesting and unique look, and I may be a little biased because we're dating, but I think she crushed the look, and I think just her natural aesthetic throughout the day, her haircut and whatnot, just played really well into being Cortana.
I know you. Your past. Your future.
As for the glitch effects, we ended up using Trapcode Form along with a bunch of glitchy overlays and blurs and optical glow to give it that Halo look. I even went so far as to go frame by frame to give that glitchiness the honor and look that it needed to feel like the original Halo trailer. Alright, let's talk about some of the environment and rendering in Unreal, because that was an undertaking in and of itself. So the environment for this project was built using World Creator, and hence the name. It is a world creator that you can create height maps in, so then you can make some cool landscapes for your game engines or 3D renders and whatnot. So we ended up doing multiple passes of the world creator world because we just couldn't nail the scale. In the original trailer, it's huge, and we had a really hard time getting that to match. So we ended up taking some creative liberties and came out with an 8K map, which is still actually pretty big for Unreal. And then we dressed that up using Megascans and Brushify. Those are assets online that you can use to make really cool environments. Now, when it comes to rendering and game engines, it is incredibly important to be conscious of scene optimization. What does that mean? When you think about a video game, you have to be able to render those frames in real time at 60 frames, 100 frames, 30 frames, etc. Because otherwise, that game would be unplayable. So, scene optimization was something that we actually didn't really consider because we're making a film. We don't need to play this in real time, but in actuality, it really slowed down our render times. At the end of it, our render times ended up being about 60 seconds per frame, which is way too long for a video game. So do as I say and not as I did. Optimize your scenes early and often. When we looked at the scene optimization for our trailer, it ended up looking very bad, literally, as the viewport said. And we believe our slow render times happened is because of the particle systems in the scene. We ended up using a lot of Niagara in the scene to create depth. So what I mean by that is we used a dust pack to create layers of dust and fog cards in the scene to give it that feeling of cinematicness, so to speak. You have layers to hide little bits of imperfection, clipping with the environment and objects in the scene, and it just makes it look more epic, more atmospheric, so to speak. So what we did is we ended up using a ton of Niagara, and we ended up maxing out the view distance, so the camera will always see those particle systems, no matter how far they are from the camera. And because they're always being rendered, we believe that is what slowed down our renders. Now, I should shout out my friend Logan Pinney for helping out with this project. He is an Unreal master, and he helped us optimize our scene as best we could. That included getting us to the right tutorials and the right tools, to looking at our GPU visualization and the plugins that we needed to make sure that our light rays were not actually out of control. Now let's talk about assets, all the things that made it into the trailer, whether it be the little details like the grass or the Master Chief model. So, of course, the most important asset was the Master Chief, and we found that online, and it was super good, super high quality. The textures were 2K, and I thought about bringing them up to 4K, but hey, these shots look amazing for just a Master Chief in 2K textures in Unreal. So I was very happy with it, and we decided, yeah, you know what, let's just go with what is there. As for the other models that were super important, like the Phantom, the Banshee, the Covenant capital ship, those also came online, and some of them were more detailed than others, but we didn't really have to get super close to those, so I was like, just let that go. It looks fine enough, because we just needed to see the shape of it. Now, as far as the wreckage, Matthias did model all of that, but we didn't have textures for it. Fortunately, there are tons of textures that you can also find on the Unreal Marketplace that have metals and stuff. We ended up using this automotive materials for a lot of that, so it looks really just metal-y because we're using metal materials from the Unreal Marketplace. And then as far as the wires that are in the scene, that is using a plugin called Tether. It's a super cool plugin that allows us to have just wires draped over things with just a couple of clicks. So we didn't actually have to model anything in the scene. And what's really cool about it is that you can click and then it'll sort of like drape over objects or even itself so it doesn't clip. But overall, there were a ton of details in this trailer that we tried to emulate from the original trailer, such as the blowing grass, the wreckage, the desert, the trees in the background, all of which we kind of found online because Matthias and I, we're not modelers, we're not game asset developers, so we did our best to kit bash things together to make it look as close as we could. Now, I should shout out a couple of other people that really helped on this project. The first is going to be a Mr. Jonathan Winbush. He is my Unreal mentor, and he has helped me a ton with how to bring things into Unreal, how to work with Unreal. And if you haven't checked out his course, I highly recommend taking it. I went through it and it is super useful in getting started in Unreal. He's also super helpful on his YouTube channel, where he has a ton of tutorials on how to do very specific things for either environment creation or setting up basic lighting, and we use a lot of those techniques in his tutorials in this video to create the volumetric clouds and the background scenes. And overall, his content is extremely useful if you are starting out in Unreal, and it came in invaluable for this project that we made. Other YouTubers who work in Unreal that deserve a very, very big shout out are a Mr. William Foucher and Clinton Jones, both of which have tutorials on Unreal for either scene optimization or making art, and their content is very useful in making Unreal content yourself, because you will learn a ton from them, so I highly recommend checking them out. That is, again, Mr. William Foucher and Clinton Jones. Both separate guys, but they make good stuff. After all of the big YouTubers and content creators who helped me with the technical parts of this project, I had a handful of friends who really encouraged me to finish this project to the end. The Halo Kitty Group, Dave Koss, Matt Milstead, Jeremy Kemp, Vernon Roberts, Nick Donlin, Steven, everyone in the Halo Kitty Group, Cameron Butterfield, David Ariev, thank you guys so much for just encouraging me to finish this project. If I missed you, I'm sorry. There's just so many people who I would share this with, and they were just like very encouraging on this process, and I'm very grateful. And including my friends in real life, David DeSilva, April Solomon, Amanda Barker. Thank you, Amanda, for dealing with all of my chaotic emotions while going through this process. I am just very grateful for just being able to make art, and I just needed to shout them out in this video because it's very important to me that the people who are in my life who support me in creating art and things get some recognition, because thank you. I'm very grateful. I guess that's it. Now let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Blur did a much better job with this trailer, with their trailers, with their cinematics. So why would you do this, Jags? Blur did a better job. Well, like I said at the beginning of this video, this was not about trying to get to their level. I mean, I wanted to. I definitely wanted to get as close as I could. But I'm reading this book right now called The Artist Way, and it talks about the pursuit of progress over perfection. And Matthias and I agreed we wanted to have a self-imposed deadline of December 8th, which was the release of Halo Infinite. However, the trailer wasn't quite where it needed to be on December 8th, so we said December 31st is our hard cutoff. And if you look at the release of the trailer, you'll see that it was uploaded to YouTube on December 30th at, I think, 9 p.m. So we got it done in the best way we could, in the time that we needed to, and I believe that I made a ton of progress as an artist. I believe that Matthias made a ton of progress as an artist, learning Unreal, learning new techniques, learning to make a video game cinematic. And that progress is so invaluable, and I learned so much about the tools that I use, and I learned what I don't know, and now I know to look up more things. I want to get better at world creating. I want to get better at Niagara. I want to get better at so many things. Obviously, we have so much time in the day, but I learned what are the things that will just bring more things to life in my work and just feel more empowered by it, because I'm putting in the time and putting in the effort to make something that makes me feel happy and special. We spent countless hours on this project that were unpaid. It took more than 75 hours to render between re-renders and whatnot, but I'm very grateful to have gone through this process. And I hope that this process, this breakdown, inspires you to do something. Go make something, go create something, because at the end of the day, as long as you're making something that makes you happy, that's what counts. Sure, we can do projects that make us money, but I'm very happy with what I've made, and I've definitely learned something about myself, and I hope that you can go make something and go learn something about yourself as well. So, that's it. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed this Halo 3 recreation breakdown. I hope you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. If you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever else, comment section is down there as well for that very reason. And I will leave you with one more final tip, and that is to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you'll make some gains. Goodbye, my friends. Bye. Palm. Bye.